Hi and welcome to Two Wheels Better. Grey bikes, you've heard all about them, but perhaps not as much as I'm going to tell you about them. But these bikes here are anything but grey, multicoloured and multi-variety. At the end of this little row here, we've got a Yamaha Cero, a nice little trail bike, 225cc. It's even got electric start, would you believe? Next to it, a ZXR Kawasaki. You might think it's a 750, but it's not. It's a 400, complete with upside down forks. The old favourite, you're thinking, GSXR 1100 Suzuki. No, it's not. It's a 400. CBR Fireblade, you're thinking. No, it's not. It's another 400. And look at this pretty little bike here. A VFR Honda, but not a 750. It's a V4, all right. Single-sided swinging arm, but again, it's a 400. And the one at the end looks like a big retro CB1 Honda. Well, that's not. It's a 400. It is a Honda, and it is four-cylinder, but 400cc. So this is a complete range. Well, not a complete range, that's wrong to say. This is a range, a sample of grey bikes, the sort of thing that you can get. Well, I have with me Perry Power of Powerslide Bikes in Swadlincote, Derbyshire. He's the owner of these lovely machines and plenty more. Perry, thanks very much for letting me have a go on these. I really enjoyed myself on these. But and you've got even more in the shop.
We certainly do.
How many do you normally carry?
About 50.
That's a fair few, isn't it?
Some shops bigger, some are smaller, but we find 50 is about the right amount. Turns over quickly that way.
Now, I've noticed in the shop there, most of them seem to be sports bike. Are they the most popular?
Yeah, the sports bikes still are the most popular. The retros, a little less popular, and then finally the cruiser-type bikes, probably still the least popular in this country.
Mm-hmm. So they're still the sports nuts. Now, I see you've got a grey bike there. I had a look at that earlier. I mean, they list loads of bikes. I haven't counted them up. How many bikes are available?
There's about 60 to 70 different models that are available from the Japanese market that we can't get actually in the country officially, that were brought in. So
hence the grey bike phrasing, as it were, for them. Is it grey because it's neither black or white, I presume?
Well, no, it's the grey really is a term used to represent a non-official import. We have the official market, the parallel market, which you've heard on, and the direct import market, which is generally referred to as the grey import market.
So how long have you been in the market then with these grey bikes?
Powerslide's been going since 1989 now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so you've pretty well experienced in these, and you were a founder member, because there is a trade association, isn't there?
Powerslide Bikes was one of the founding members of the British Independent Motorcycle Importers Association.
Quite a mouthful.
A bit of a mouthful, that one, the BIMIA, yes.
Yes.
When the bikes were first being brought in, it was clear to those of us that were importing them that we needed some way to convince the buyers, the insurance industry, that there was support behind these products. And we really took it on ourselves to create a level of a support network, so to speak, of parts backup, insurance quotes, etc. for them.
Now, the secret of the small capacity bikes, I mean, 400 they seem to sort of top out at in the main. I know there's 250s as well. But tell us a bit, these all come from Japan, don't they?
That's right.
Yeah. So is it a licensing regulation over there? Is that why 400s are so many about?
That's right. Traditionally, the Japanese markets had a three-tier licensing scheme. 125s, up to 400 and over 400. To get a license for over 400 cc's has been extremely difficult historically. They had some unusual requirements, such as being able to put your bike down on the ground and pick it back up.
Really?
Which if you're a 5'2" Japanese person trying to pick up a 750, it became sort of an instant fail.
Yeah.
Those licensing laws actually will be changing this month. They're becoming more liberal, as we're in fact becoming more stringent on our licensing. So we will see probably a changing pattern.
And we think we've got a strict MOT, or sometimes people talk about the MOT being strict, but I understand it's even worse, or whichever way you look at it, perhaps better in Japan.
Right. In Japan they have the equivalent to our MOT. It's called the Tanken. You're required to put your bike through it after 3 years, or any vehicle. The difference is it takes a lot more persistence and a lot more money. Rather than paying 10 or 12 pounds here for your first attempt at a test, you pay about 635 pounds for your first attempt at an
That's
MOT.
a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. And it creates a reason for people not to hang on to used bikes, even if they're low mileage and high quality.
And I suppose the other thing, they're very style conscious, aren't they, the Japanese? So they always want to be up with the latest.
Yes, the Japanese models change virtually every year. There's cosmetic changes that occur, and in a way it's almost a planned obsolescence that we expect from the Japanese market, where the fashion changes and the severity of their MOT means that after 3 years a bike is disposed of.
Yeah. And tell me an interesting thing. I mean, I've been out on these bikes, as I said, there's some cracking bikes. Just why aren't they available from mainstream dealers, from Kawasaki, Yamaha or whatever?
Well, it stems back to the days when the motorcycle market started going through a slump. The official dealers found themselves overwhelmed with the number of models from each of the dealers. It was not unusual that a dealer would have 3 or even 4 franchises. Trying to keep up with the models, the support behind the models, the ever-changing models, just became too much during the slump period. So they got together, spoke to the official importers and said, we need to cut the model range. They chose the 125s, the 600s, the 750s and above, and really dropped the sort of 250 through 500 cc range to a large extent. I mean, there was some off-road bikes that came in that capacity, some odd retro bikes like the CBXs that came in those capacities that they maintain, but generally they dropped the entire 250 and 400 range from the market.
These bikes, they might have small engines, but everything else, all the running gear, seems to be up to the big bike standard, brakes and suspension.
Absolutely. Majority of the components are completely interchangeable with official models. That's one of the reasons the parts backup now is so easy to do.
Yeah, and it must make them reliable as well as a bike. You get a big bike feel, big bike, all the sort of running gear of them, but you just haven't got the extra weight.
Yeah, you find that what you give up in horsepower, you gain in handling and braking because of the lighter chassis that you're dealing with.
That was one thing I was going to say. They are limited, aren't they, in Japan to top speed?
That's right. They have a speed restriction that's applied to all Japanese motorcycles of 180 kilometers an hour, about 112 miles per hour for us, yes.
Yeah. And so the setup is, do you leave them restricted, or you can de-restrict them if people want to?
Yeah, as a standard, we don't de-restrict them until customers ask to have them de-restricted. De-restriction is very straightforward. Usually just involves removing a brass sensor plate from the speedometer.
Simple as that?
As simple as that. Some of them slightly more complicated. An electronic box, the little black box, is required. But the price of doing it ranges from about 5p to £100, depending upon the model you have.
Yes. Oh, well, 5p, that's very, very cheap, that is. Very simple mod. And tell me, what about warranties? Obviously, you don't actually get, I'll say, a Honda warranty or whatever, but what do you offer people?
We offer a 2-year warranty that's equivalent to a new vehicle policy. We've negotiated with one of the underwriters in the country and have come up with a policy that really would meet the equivalent to what you would get if you bought a brand new motorcycle.
So people needn't worry at all about grey imports. They're solid bikes. They're in excellent condition. I mean, the CB 400 is brand new, isn't it? That one is. But even the second-hand ones, the used ones, are in excellent condition.
Again, in the Japanese market, the bikes aren't used in the winter. Their winters are very severe. They don't travel long distances, so it's not unusual to get a 3 or 4-year-old bike with 5,000 miles on it in absolutely spotless condition.
Yeah. Well, as I've seen from these. Okay, Perry, well, thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Well, I've got with me here Steve. You might have seen him in some of the shots on the road. Steve's the mechanic at Powerslide, and he's sitting on his own favourite, or I think it is. Steve, which is your favourite? Is it the VFR?
The VFR, the Honda.
Well, why is that in particular?
V4 engine. I think it's got nice power delivery, nice torque, and very smooth to ride.
Because you're a bit of a racer, aren't you? You've got a Ducati of your own, haven't you?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that one.
It's the 750 SS. It's not quite standard. It's done in Michael Rutter's race colours, the McCulloch race colours. Beefed up swinging arm. It's had a bit of work done at the motor.
So quite a few changes. So you're an Italian man, or you've ended up with one. But you've got a whole range of bikes here. You said your favourite is the VFR. For people in general, there really is no problem with these. They're well-sorted engines. There's nothing strange about them. It's just that they're fairly rare on our roads.
Yeah, they're beautiful motors. Plenty of power, no problems. I don't have any trouble major troubles with them at all.
And some of the revs that these get to, I mean, what are the peak revs? You were telling me earlier, one of them, was it sort of 18,000 or whatever?
Yeah, the 250 CBR, 18,000 RPM.
And they're reliable at that, aren't they?
Yeah, very reliable.
Okay then, Steve. Well, thanks for all your help today anyway. We couldn't have done it without you, so it was good having you along.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that's about it. I'm sitting on my favourite here, the CBR, the Mini Fireblade. It might look a bit small for me, but it doesn't feel it, and the power delivery is absolutely superb. And I really have been thoroughly impressed by this bike, but I'm not surprised to find that in fact it is the top-selling 400, I was just going to say superbike. Well, it is a superbike to me, but as a grey import, it is the top-selling bike.